And we are back. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the MMA After Hour. It is I, Ariel Helwani, once again. This is our exclusive Twitter segment. This is when we answer your questions. We take a look at your comments. There's a lot going on in the world of MMA, so let us not waste any time. Mr. New York Rick, do we have any questions? Does anyone care about anything these days?
You'll be happy to know that we do have some questions.
All right, let's hear it.
Okay, let's get this first one up. Give me a moment. As you tweet out to the people
Yes.
that we are going to the after hour, the first question is regarding Daniel Cormier. Next steps. Do you believe he should go up to heavyweight?
It's a tough one. Sure. I'll say yes.
Who does he fight?
I don't believe that Daniel Cormier should retire. I don't understand where this is coming from. He's lost only twice to the same guy. He's only been finished once. He's lost, what, maybe 5 or so rounds in his entire career. Why should he retire? He's still making a lot of money. I do think that if Kane is not in the mix, that he could become a contender at heavyweight once again. I know he doesn't want to fight until he's 45, but with John Jones around, he's not going to get a shot at the belt anytime soon. Now, here's the difference between him and like a Joseph Benavidez or a Chad Mendes or a Claudio Gadelha, other fighters who have lost twice to the current champion. He's already been champion. He was champion for 2+ years. And you can call him paper champion, doesn't matter. He was paid as a champion. He has the belts. On his resume, it says UFC light heavyweight champion there, or former now, but once was. There are no asterisks. So that's the difference. He doesn't have to chase the gold. He doesn't have to be a belt chaser, if you will. Still, though, I wouldn't be shocked if he moves up to heavyweight.
How about this as an option? 225-pound division.
Yeah,
Could Daniel Cormier be the face of this?
No, because there aren't enough 205ers, and there certainly aren't enough. Like, why would you want to add a third division in between those two that are already thin?
Yeah, heavyweight, I think, is thin. And also, I feel like there's been initially when Brock Lesnar was on top, there was a wave of
265ers.
265ers, and how are we going to compete against them? Now I feel like the division has thinned out to the point where lighter weight heavyweights are there. I think it could be a thought down the line, but definitely not next.
I agree.
And I also think Daniel Cormier could be very, very good at heavyweight. Still. Do you agree with Frank Mir's comments on DC that the loss meant he was never really the champion? I have the exact
I
quote
saw that.
here. It is, people need to understand why DC was so hurt by the outcome. The loss means he was never really champ and only had title because of John's absence.
I mean, that is a fact. He was champion during John's absence, but I don't...
But never really champ?
No, that's... I mean, that's...
I get the intention of what he's saying.
That's inaccurate. I think what he's trying to say is that DC wanted to win the fight to validate his position as champion for his legacy. I mean, these are all things that DC said himself. I just don't think he wrote it in the most eloquent way
possible. Is it
possible.
Unfair to say that Cormier was a champion of circumstance, though?
I mean, he fought for the belt because John was stripped.
Not around,
Yeah, was stripped. So, yeah, the title shot immediately after losing to John was due to circumstance. But I don't think you could take anything away from his fights against Rumble, the title defense against Rumble, the fight against Anderson Silva, the fight against Alexander Gustafsson. I mean, even the Anderson Silva thing, like that, John having to pull out of that fight, to me, validated his championship reign even more because he was there. He was ready to fight. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so I don't think it's fair. Like, you can put any kind of asterisk on it that you want. I don't feel that way. I feel like you can't blame DC for John disqualifying himself. Same way you can't take anything away from the Houston Rockets, who won 2 championships while Michael Jordan was trying to be a baseball player. They're the champions. He was the champion. You know, people can make up the reasons that they want to discredit him, or they could come, but history will say that he was a champion during this period and that period.
Yep.
And by the way, in this day and age of, interim belts and new divisions and people who, who are fighting for belts who don't have, the resumes that others in other divisions that are more stacked and can't even get a sniff of the belt. Like, come on. We're going to take something away from DC. Again, most underrated and underappreciated champion in UFC history. And I'll say that to my last days, unless someone, replaces him, and that could very well happen. And to me, it's just silly, the lack of respect that he receives.
I think what's more important to probably note from this is that imagine the legacy that Daniel would have if John Jones.
Yeah, but this happens. It's like Patrick Ewing. He'd be a champion if it wasn't for Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley. Unfortunately, there are the greats, and there are the guys who are just not as good as the greats. And
I don't know if I'd put Patrick Ewing in that company, but
shut your mouth.
Point taken.
Daniel Cormier, in my opinion, is, I don't know, off the top of my head, top 20, top 15 greatest fighters in UFC history. That's how.
Ooh, I'd say that's low.
I'd
say
I'm
he's
just trying
higher.
to be conservative so everyone doesn't come at me. Top 10, I don't know. He's one of the greats, like the greats.
He is, yes.
So
definitely up there.
He has nothing to be ashamed of. John Jones is just the greatest of all time. And
no doubt.
There's a difference.
Is there any doubt about that at this point?
God. How could there?
Yeah. I mean,
who's even close?
I could see somebody making an argument for George or Anderson just because of longevity, like, doing it longer.
Not had a blemish. And by the way, he's been doing this, as champion in championship fights for 6 years.
Yes. Until Demetrius breaks Anderson Silva's record for title defenses. Anderson still has that.
Okay, but first of all, like, are we really going to compare the competition that he's faced to the competition DJ's faced? And again, DJ is a victim of his resume, but it's not even in the same stratosphere.
Believe me, I'm only playing devil's advocate because I've long said John is the best.
It's not even in the same
before
stratosphere.
This.
Not even close.
But I agree.
If anything, GSP would be next.
Yeah, I could see somebody arguing that. I don't think that's unreasonable.
But if you look at the guys that John, I mean, he is. First of all,
the stretch from Shogun until now is
the fact that he's
unparalleled.
The fact that he defeated Daniel Cormier twice, to me, is the most impressive thing he's ever done.
Sure.
And the fact that he finished Daniel Cormier, especially when Daniel Cormier was looking that good, it wasn't like a 1 minute knockout. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the most impressive thing he's done on a 1.5 year layoff. Right?
I'd say the most impressive thing he's ever done is partied all week and then beat Alexander Gustafsson.
Yeah, by the skin of his teeth. But look, Shogun, and we're not talking about Shogun today. We're talking about championship Shogun.
Yep.
Quinton Jackson. We're not talking about Quinton. Like, let's not have revisionist history here. We're talking about championship Rampage Jackson. Lyoto Machida, Rashad Evans, Vitor Belfort on a couple of things in his system. Chael Sonnen. Okay, that one was a little crazy.
Yeah.
Alexander Gustafsson, after a whole weekend of partying in Toronto and maybe in neighboring towns. Glover Teixeira, who was on quite a roll going into that point. Daniel Cormier. Come on. Cormier twice. OSP. Get out of here. Nothing even comes close.
Quite the resume. As a journalist, what are your thoughts on Rogan interviewing DC and how he handled it? I guess the question is, I said I thought it was not completely out of line to ask in that moment. What were your thoughts on even raising, giving the mic to him at that moment?
Again, I don't think it's fair to rag on Rogan in this spot. I know he's actually said it himself that he doesn't want to interview fighters after they've been knocked down. And I do think that is a good position to have, but he doesn't know the state of DC. I truly believe that he cares for him. I truly believe that he wanted to give him an opportunity to talk about it. I think that, and he said it himself, like he was almost like shook up. I think that he was trying to almost speak to him and use, the platform that he's on to just use that as a bridge to get to him. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I'm accurately saying that, but like, or explaining my thoughts clearly here, but I think he really wanted to talk to him. And the only chance he had in that moment was to just go up to him and talk to him right in that moment. And I think he did it on national television, and it sucked. And I don't think the UFC should be posting that interview. And I don't know why they keep tweeting it as recently as this morning. Why are you tweeting this? Why are you putting this on YouTube? Just let go of it. You put things under the rug all the time.
Yeah, tough moment, but kudos to Rogan for addressing
No,
it.
I don't think he deserves any blame for this at all.
Light heavyweight division. These are some of the top fighters in that division: Gustafsson, Cormier, Jones, Ozdemir, Manoa. What matchups would you like to see from that?
Right now,
How would you like it to see it shake out?
interesting, no Rumble there.
He's
He
retired.
wants to come back. It's very clear. Anyway, Gus Jones, DC Manoa, but in a very long time. Both were knocked out. Very long time. Volkan is the tough one. He's not going to fight Rumble, by the way, because they're friends.
Yeah.
Who's he going to fight?
Sorry, I clicked to the next one, but we'll keep talking about this.
By the way,
That's a good question.
I love Volkan's his new nickname, No Time.
Yeah.
Tremendous. And
After the knockout, pointing to the watch.
Also because he said watches are popular in Switzerland. I mean, it all comes together.
How about Cormier and Volkan?
No. Because if you have to build, and a lot can happen by the time Cormier comes back, but you don't want to put, it's kind of like why I don't like the Ngannou JDS fight, because if JDS wins, now you're faced with JDS versus Stipe too. No, you want two guys
Three.
JDS 3?
Yeah.
They fought once. JDS.
Oh.
When did Stipe fight JDS? He never fought JDS. Oh, yes, you're right. Yes, I forgot about the
Ariel.
knockout fight. It's been a long day. It's been a long freaking day. Anyway.
Do we need to get Shane?
Yes.
Where's Shane?
So, okay, fine. It'll be 1-1. You get my point. I don't like...
No, I agree with you. And I see that as a very parallel circumstance.
Yeah.
You'd have to pretty much put Cormier right back into the picture when he probably should be, building himself back up a little bit. It's a tough position. Who do you match Cormier with?
I think he's going to take a long break.
That's an absolutely warranted and deserved. Ultimately, his path would be back to John Jones, and I don't imagine that much else is going to get his blood, his juices going for a while. So I think he would be good to take some time off. But it's a tough position. There's really John and then a line of contenders.
No, but I think that there are interesting fights for him.
Oh, for sure. I'll say this, though. I really want to see Gustafsson, and then after that, I think they're interesting, yeah, but I'd rather see him at heavyweight, to be honest.
By the way, this is what Cyborg tweeted. I accepted Kat and Holly as an opponent for both UFC 198 and UFC Brazilian, was told neither would fight me in Brazil. Hashtag the MMA Hour.
Nice.
I asked for both to replace Megan Anderson when she pulled out after making such a campaign for the fight and was told they both declined. They should have fought me at 140. I'm the best I've ever been in my career with my return to 145, and I'm ready for either next. So there you go. Thank you for using the hashtag.
We appreciate that. Rumble Johnson, harder stylistic matchup for Daniel Cormier. How about this? More interesting matchup for Daniel Cormier, for John Jones, rather.
Then who?
Then Daniel.
No.
I know my answer. Definitely yes.
Okay, well, this is the thing. He's bigger than Daniel in terms of,
And he has the game changer.
he's got the power.
He's
Daniel's
got the power. Daniel's got power. He doesn't have Rumble power.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody has Rumble power. So for at least a round, I'd be super interested to see that, because I just think, even though I think Daniel was doing well in the first two rounds, I don't think it's sustainable against John Jones. I think if your game plan is to outwork, to beat John Jones in a way that's not submitting him or not knocking him out immediately, you're ultimately going to lose that battle. He's better prepared. He's more well-rounded. He's always going to beat you on that chance, which is why I think actually in a rematch with Gustafsson, I don't give Gustafsson as great a shot. I think John would be able to figure that out. Oh, of course. That's the fight. That's the one that I want to see at light heavyweight.
Yeah.
But I think John will be better in that fight, and I just ultimately think if you don't have a game changer like that power that Rumble has, it's going to be tough sledding. So I think he's one of the matchups I would really like to see. And on the other side, at heavyweight, I'd like to see if Brock Lesnar could get him to the ground. I'd like to see that size disparity.
I want to see Stipe versus John. That's a great fight.
Yeah.
How do you not want to see that?
I think the size there is too much for Jones. I'd rather see him versus Lesnar first, and then maybe Stipe. I like Stipe in that fight. So I'd not want to see it because I think you don't want to crush the heavyweight John Jones right away. And I think that would happen. I think Stipe would be a tough task for him to jump
What
up
sells
to right
more?
away.
Jones Stipe or Jones Gustafsson?
Jones Gustafsson.
You don't think John...
The built-in storyline.
You don't think John going for history, 2 belts, all that stuff?
If we hadn't seen Conor do it,
Yeah.
I think yes, but Conor has already done it.
Who would be the
I don't
favorite?
think it has as much. I would think that Stipe is the favorite. That's uncharted territory for John, and also Stipe is very, very good.
Right.
I think Lesnar has clear deficiencies where you could see a case for John moving up to heavyweight right away and jumping in and being able to get it done. I think Stipe is a little tougher of a task.
It's good to have John Jones back.
It's great to have John
Even
Jones
talk
back.
about these things, it's good to have him back.
Our next question, just to give Jalen that screen time, was would you give John Jones a shot against champion
Kind of
Stipe?
rob him.
Why all the hate for Woodley? He's on a tear, beating the best. This person, Alex, personally loves watching Woodley fight. What do you think?
How about this guy? Francis Long just sent me an email. This is the subject. So Dana cannot criticize Woodley, but Ariel can criticize fans for preferring fights where punches are thrown when the entire fight is on the feet. Quote, if you can't find any appreciation for him shutting down, what does that say about your appreciation of mixed martial arts? End quote. That's what I said. Nice. Now your turn to take shots at everyone who has different opinion about fights than you have. I mean, I don't know if I'm taking shots. I'm just saying there was everything for you on Saturday night. If you didn't like that one, all right, then I guess that you're a certain kind of fan who can't appreciate those sorts of things. He goes on to say, as I said, I don't ever think that it is the promoter's interest to insult and criticize a fighter, never mind a champion. Okay, now that everything is on the table, it did look like Woodley fighting Maia with one arm. That's a good explanation. But if you think the fans are not going to realize when someone with the power, speed, and capability of Woodley is not even throwing a punch in the last 3 rounds, you are not in the right sport. I mean, if you think the fans are not going to realize when someone... Okay, well, so I guess you owe him an apology because you just said in the previous statement that it was a good explanation that he has an injured shoulder. So maybe if you think it's weird that Tyron Woodley isn't throwing a punch, instead of acting like a jackass and putting up your cell phone light, maybe you say to yourself, there's a reason for this. And guess what? We're getting the DC Jones fight. So I'll boo, I'll criticize maybe to my friend next door, sitting next to me, whatever, but I'm not going to go on Twitter and berate an individual who just fought with one arm. But that's me. I don't even remember what the question was. I've said enough about it. You say something about it.
I think we have to accept that there's 2 things that are not mutually exclusive.
Oh, this is the Capoza tweet that I just saw.
What is it?
Go ahead. I read Capoza say the exact same thing.
I didn't even say what I was going to say.
I know what
yet.
you're going to say.
What is it?
You're going to say that there's a big fall from grace from championship to non-championship fights, and fighters are fighting to make money. But there's
It's also
okay to appreciate or to criticize or to not appreciate when someone is fighting this way.
Well, that's half of it.
Okay.
The 2 things that are not mutually exclusive is Tyron Woodley's style is not going to be everybody's favorite, and Tyron Woodley is a dominant champion and an incredible fighter. Those 2 things do not have to be mutually exclusive. Tyron Woodley can be dominant, can be promotable, can be somebody that you want to make the face of your organization. And at the same time, every one of his fights doesn't have to be a barn burner. Those things don't have to be exactly the same. Take, for example, a guy like George St. Pierre. George St. Pierre wasn't out there laying guys out in every single fight and was still able to build a fan base for himself. So I think we've almost kind of gone away from that time, and we're forgetting that there's still a way that somebody can be promoted. There's still a way that somebody can be presented without them having to be out there knocking
I guarantee
people
you,
out
if
in every
Dana White
single
shows
fight.
up to that press conference on Saturday night and says, look, if you couldn't appreciate that, I'm sorry. We gave you 5 other different scenarios. This guy just stuffed 24 straight takedowns. Almost finished him in the first round. I'm sorry. What do you want me to do? But if you come up there being like, man, that was not good, and I'm upset, and it's just there's a trickle down effect, and this to me is a business in which you need to build up your champions, to make money off your champions, to sell pay-per-views off your champions, and not try to disparage them.
Yeah.
And I feel like there is a sense of entitlement from the fans, and I feel like they are in the right in the sense that, hey, you paid money for those tickets, go ahead, boo all you want if you're unhappy. But that wasn't the card. That wasn't the card. 209, that was the main event. And it was somewhat lackluster. And you lost your original main event, right? You were pissed off, all this stuff. I don't remember. Khabib wasn't the original main event, but you get my point. That was the people's main event. And you were pissed off. And I get it. I definitely get it. And the same thing with 213. You lost the main event, all that stuff. I get it. You got everything you asked for and then some. This was gravy. This fight was gravy. It was a third title fight, added a month out. Most people bought their tickets already. Chill out. To me, it was interesting. I find interest in fights like that. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm not going to paint anyone with a brush here. I'm not going to say, fans, you don't appreciate MMA. I'm just going to sit here. All I can say is, honestly, I enjoyed it. Did I like it as much as the main? Absolutely not. Did I like it as much as Cerrone Lawler? Absolutely not. But I'll tell you, those first 3 rounds, and ask Steve Cofield, I was watching it with him, and Luke's producer, Luke Thomas's producer, Marissa, I had no problem with it. And now that I know that he was fighting with an injured shoulder, I have a greater appreciation for it. That's all.
And I think that's perfectly acceptable. As is somebody who says that wasn't their favorite fight. There's a difference between being critical and being completely obtuse and saying that Tyron Woodley had, had to do something differently. No, he was dominating that fight. That was the way that stylistically that fight was going to go with Damian Maia. Expecting a different outcome than that is perfectly within your right, but you cannot blame Tyron for that. He did what he had to do in order to compete against an athlete the way, Damian Maia is going out there and smoking everybody. First round submissions, up the wazoo, and everybody's like, when is Damian Maia going to get his title shot? When is Damian Maia going to get his title shot? Look at how he's doing this. And then when the first guy doesn't let him do that, to be critical of that, I find it difficult to deal with. Was it my favorite fight ever? No. But can you blame Tyron's game plan, and can you blame him for not going to the ground with Damian Maia? No.
Imagine he did something stupid in the first round, and
we'd not be talking about it.
He gets submitted, and he'd be like, you dummy. You know what I mean? Someone actually tweeted me this. EST Looney said, Dana said the Woodley fight may be boring before the card started. He did this in a scrum on Friday. Yeah. Because of the styles. Why did he act surprised afterwards? I don't know the answer to that question, but the freezing cold take thing that came out where I said Woodley, I said this in December of 2015. I said Woodley versus Maia would be interesting because I wanted to know if Maia could take him down, what would happen. I wanted to know if Maia could take him down, and I wanted to know if Woodley could stuff the takedowns, what would happen. We found out. And so I was thinking the same thing back then. I don't necessarily agree with it being a freezing cold take, but I'm honored that they were following me closely enough to remember a tweet that I sent out in December of 2015, which I'm sure they didn't remember. Someone sent it to them. But that fight was, the way it played out was one of the scenarios in which I thought it may play out. So I don't feel like I was robbed of anything. Agreed. As a non-paying customer, of course.
What is the best fight for Woodley now that GSP appears to be off the table?
That's the tricky thing, because I don't know if the Lawler fight sells very much, but Lawler is the next best guy, is he not?
I agree.
So, I don't know. I mean, he's got a...
Although I think, in my opinion, Cerrone won that fight.
Okay, well, that's even worse for Lawler. Maybe Masvidal gets a win, gets in there,
Yeah, only lost to Maia in this streak. So
I suspect he takes some time off. RDA's there.
It seems like welterweight has kind of sorted itself out.
Yeah, RDA's in the mix. So we'll see what happens.
Welterweight was all clogged up, then it kind of sorted itself out. Middleweight all clogged up. Kind of these things ebb and flow, and it seems like we have strings of contenders, then none.
He's fought 4 times in 366 days, so I think he deserves a break if he wants one.
And on the other side of it, at light heavyweight, we thought, oh, where are the contenders going to come from? Now all of a sudden, there's interesting fights for John Jones. These things will always find a way. On the greatest ever list, we see names like John Jones, GSP, Anderson Silva, Fedor. Is Chris Cyborg on the list? Does she belong in that category?
She's certainly the greatest featherweight of all time.
Female featherweight or featherweight overall?
No, female featherweight. I don't think it's fair to compare the two, you know?
Sure.
And I think that you can make a strong case for her being the greatest female fighter of all time. So sure. When I think greatest, if you ask me, who's the greatest welterweight? GSP. Who's the greatest light heavyweight? John Jones. Who's the greatest middleweight? Anderson Silva. Who's the greatest female fighter? First thing that comes to mind is Chris Cyborg.
Chris Cyborg. Yeah.
Am I wrong?
And no, definitely not wrong. Agree with all of that. Also think it's interesting that Demetrius wasn't on this list, but Demetrius wouldn't be on this list for the same reasons one might, to play devil's advocate. I do not agree with this. One might leave Chris off the list is level of competition. And that would be the only prohibitive factor, but she can only beat who's in front of her, much like Demetrius. I think they're both all-time greats, and I think Chris very clearly belongs on this.
By the way, I wish that Rory McDonald was still around. We see Rory versus Tyron Woodley. I don't know. That just popped into my mind. The second fight, their rematch. But yes, DJ should be on this list, as should Cyborg. Cyborg, yeah.
Here we're going to... I guess I meant to put this on Rick's picks. Yeah, I did. And put it instead on our MMA hour.
Is this
pretend
what's going on here?
Pretend we're jumping in with Rick's picks. Becky Lynch, WWE wrestler, calling out Chris Cyborg.
Is this legit?
Is it any who's gonna fight her at 145? Holly Holm maybe.
I feel like she has some options. I want to see the Holly Holm fight. I want to see the Kat Zingano fight. I want to see the Megan Anderson fight.
I want to see all those, but I'll take Becky Lynch jumping over if she wants to fight. I don't know if she's
the champion. Who is she?
I don't know.
Where's she from?
WWE.
No, but which country?
Ireland.
Oh, she's Irish.
Yeah.
I mean,
I believe Cool Hand Luke. Luke Sanders.
That's his girlfriend. Oh. So she really trains?
Yeah, so maybe we can see that one day down the line.
What is the genesis of this feud?
I think it's just a Twitter thing. But why not? If you're... I feel like WWE versus...
Cyborg is a violent individual.
Yeah, maybe she really wants to get in there.
I mean, there's a difference between CM Punk, Mickey Gall, and Chris Cyborg.
Fair.
Right?
But
don't give me that.
Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, I know, but...
and when Conor McGregor would speak out, all the WWE fighters would try and attach themselves to that. I think she's doing good promo.
You're better than this. I didn't hear the promo.
I don't
Did you hear the promo?
It doesn't matter. It was supposed to be a Rick's pick.
Oh.
I don't think they're going to fight, obviously. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe they'll be out of options, but I think it's interesting that Cyborg has that kind of drawing power.
Maybe in Japan. Maybe she goes to Japan. She signs with Ryzen.
Ryzen?
If she can't come to terms with the UFC, and then...
We'll see. Donald Cerrone. What's next for him?
That's a good question.
Is it the usual Donald Cerrone? He's going to bounce back, put together 3-4 in a row, and be right back there? Because, as I said, I think he won the fight.
What about...
I don't think his stock is too hurt.
What about Gunnar Nelson?
Love it. Let's do it. Both coming off a loss. Let's get that.
Eric Safadine?
I think I'd rather see Gunnar.
Santiago Ponzinibbio?
Also, ooh, that could be fun.
And I know one's coming off losses, but Ponzinibbio needs, to keep moving up.
Different kind of thing. Yeah, I'd like to see any of those. I think the thing about Cerrone is that this division hasn't been his home for a while, so there's a lot of interesting matchups. I think he's fine stock-wise. He'll put together 3-4 in a row, probably before the year's even over, and be right back in the title.
Carlos Condit, no, they'd never fight.
No.
But it would be a fun fight.
How about Aljo? Picked up a big win over Henan Barao
Aljo
on Saturday. These are the choices.
I have my choices
that have been given to us.
Okay.
Dodson.
Yeah, that was one.
Lineker.
That was not one.
Caraway.
Yeah.
Marlon Moraes, and Thomas Almeida.
Jimmy Rivera? No.
I think Jimmy's ahead of him.
Yeah, of course. I want to see Rivera versus Dominic Cruz, but I don't know if that's going to happen. Dotson was the first one that came to mind.
I like that.
That was the first one. I'd love to see. I think Lineker makes sense. I think Marlon makes sense.
I like all these.
I like all of them. I don't think the Caraway fight will happen. But
this was a big statement for Aljo after coming off a loss, bouncing back really impressively against Renan Barão, who's not looking like the Renan Barão of old. But a huge statement for Aljamain Sterling.
Especially because you would think that the 140 would favor Barão, right? Because he's fought at 145, Aljo, yeah. T-City, baby.
T-City, how about that?
Oh, my God, this guy is something else.
Third round is T-City's round.
Fourth in a row. No one's ever done it 3 times in a row.
What's more interesting is it seems like it's not just finishes in the third round, but it seems like he's losing the first 2 rounds, and then he pulls it out. That's what makes it so impressive.
His story, if you have not seen the scrum afterwards, his story about almost missing weight and considering cutting his hair, his Tarzan hair, as he called it.
Thank God he did not.
Amazing.
Thank God. Beautiful hair.
He's not even ranked.
Because he's been fighting lower level. I don't think he gets a big bump up after this. It seems like he's winning the first 2 rounds, pulling out a miracle submission. I think he's going to kind of stay in that same range.
T-City versus Michael Chiesa.
Oh, no.
Why?
That's the step up he gets?
No.
That's too much.
Too much?
Soon. Yeah.
Come on.
I think that's too early. Let's early.
Let's see. He's won. He's undefeated.
Fine. You know what? He's a highlight maker. Let's do it. If you're Chiesa, though, that's a tough
fun fight on the ground.
Yeah, that's a tough fight to take because he is dangerous.
Beneil Dariush?
And unranked. I think that's more appropriate in terms of level. I don't mean to be a buzzkill. I don't want to sour the T-City love.
And also, T-City and SoCal is just magic.
But huge. I mean, just that guy. I mean, yeah, I don't even know what to say. Okay. Mighty Mouse, 215.
Henry Gracie told me a great story about him, by the way, on Saturday night. Came to him as a 12-year-old in gangs, didn't talk to anyone. He has not been with a fighter longer than with T-City, with Brian Ortega. And so he is truly like
fruits of the labor.
A homegrown Gracie Jiu-Jitsu guy. It's very cool to see. He's a lot of fun. What was the question?
How do we think 215 is shaping up and going to do ultimately?
215 is a great card. It is a hardcore fans card. They added RDA versus Magny, right?
But does a hardcore fans card mean that it won't do well?
No, I don't think it's going to do incredibly well. I mean, let's see what happens, but it's coming off Mayweather-McGregor, and every fight fan on the planet is going to order that. So, and then I also think that 216 and 217 and 218 are going to do very well because there's a ton of champions coming back. Cody, Khabib Ferguson, GSP Bisping. I suspect at some point Stipe will fight if he can figure out his contract. That October thing is not true. So there's a lot of champions coming back. Maybe John Jones, December 30th. Maybe Connor, December 30th. But it's a great, I mean, look at this lineup. DJ Borg, Nunes Shevchenko, JDS Ngannou, Magny RDA, Stevens Melendez, Cejudo Wilson Hayes, Latifi Pedro, McMahon Vieira, Gavin Tucker returning against Rick Glenn. This is a great card. You know what that sounded like? You ever see Meet the Parents? Where he goes, it's a big shot.
It is. It's a big card.
Yeah. Cajun Johnson, friend of the show.
Michael Chiesa, a 155er.
Yes.
Ortega, a 145er.
Oh, that's right. See? That means it's time to go.
Wait. Yeah, that was it. It is time to go. That was the last question.
Jason Knight? Why did I think Ortega was a 155er? That is weird.
How about that? Your sense of timing, impeccable.
What? Oh, that it was the last question?
That was the last question.
Oh, by the way, Brian Ortega is ranked 8th. I said he wasn't ranked. No wonder he's not ranked because I was looking in the wrong weight class. He's ranked 8th. Maybe the winner of Stevens Melendez?
Oh, I like that. Man, those guys are ranked above him?
Yeah, he's ranked 8th. Well, Stevens is ranked 7th. Melendez isn't ranked because he's in.
I like it.
There you go. Sorry about that. Even the gods make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about you, of course. You were the one who said that he was a lightweight. All right, that's it. We're done.
I don't recall that, but okay.
It has been a fun show. Thank you for your time. Nice shirt, by the way.
Thank you.
Representing
Shout
Six
out to
Gun.
Brenda. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
One more thing before we go. Who's that? Who's that back there?
Is that the Ken doll with the... Get out of town. Who gave you that? That is incredible. I like the zoom in. Who gave you that?
One Mr. William Jackman. My father got me that.
Get out of here.
Actually.
That's amazing.
He found it.
That actually really looks like you.
Listen.
Except it highlights the fact that you screwed up with the hair because you should have kept it long on the sides like him.
No, his is short on the sides. Look, it even has like a... Anyway, he's going to be a permanent part of the studio now.
I love it.
We've got Mini.
That's great. That is great. Wow, your dad got you that? Where did he get that?
Thanks,
Is it
Dad.
a Mattel thing? Is it like a Barbie thing?
Yeah, it's a Mattel.
Wow, that is amazing. Well done.
Thank you, Dad.
Thank you, Pops. Appreciate you. All right, we are done. You can hear my music. What a fun show. Oh, how about this tweet from someone? Timothy sends me this. Chris Lieben is refereeing this weekend. Gladiator Challenge. How about that? Yes, I know. Everyone telling me wrong city. Wrong division for T-City. I know. I'm tired. I just flew back from California. My bus never came today. I had to take a cab here. It's been all kinds of problems. But we made it. We did the show. It was a fun show. Talked all kinds of things about 214. Mexico City will end the UFC's 11 fight cards in 11 weeks stretch. A few other things that we didn't get to, but I think we've covered it enough for 1 week. So I want to thank everyone who tuned in. I want to thank everyone who stopped by. I want to thank all our guests this week. Thank you, Malkikawa, for squeezing us in as you were hobnobbing with the 49ers. It was very kind of you. Congratulations on the big night on Saturday. Thank you very much to Anthony Johnson. Is he coming back? We shall find out. Sounds like he's got that itch. Thank you very much to Frank Mir. Congrats on getting released. Thank you very much to Rashad Evans. Good luck this Saturday. Thank you very much to Sergio Pettis. Good luck to you this Saturday. UFC Fight Night, Mexico City. Thank you very much to Shane Burgos for coming in. That was a lot of fun. Thank you very much to Kat Zingano. And thank you very much to Tyron Woodley. Congratulations. Congratulations to John Jones, Chris Cyborg, Tyron Woodley, all the winners on Saturday night. We are back next week, same time and place. Until they say peace. Somebody.